The LAX airport was always buzzing with movement, but for Emma and Sophia Bennett, it was nothing more than a routine stop. Dressed in comfortable yet stylish athleisure, the 21-year-old twins walked side by side, their rolling suitcases gliding effortlessly over the polished floors. "I can't wait to land," Sophia murmured, adjusting the strap of her backpack. "I swear Los Angeles is suffocating sometimes." Emma smirked. "Says the girl who spent half the spring complaining about Miami being too fake." Sophia rolled her eyes. "Fake people in good weather? I'll take the latter." The twins shared a laugh, their bond evident in their easy banter, but their expressions tightened as they approached the StarFlight Airlines first-class boarding gate. A small queue was forming, and the air felt charged with anticipation. They had flown first class countless times, but today something felt off. Sophia glanced at Emma, her voice low. "Why do I feel like we're about to deal with nonsense?" Emma shrugged, but her eyes scanned the gate area warily. "Just stay cool, we've got this." Despite growing up as the daughters of William Bennett, CEO of StarFlight Airlines, the twins had never been ones to flaunt their wealth. Their father had raised them with an understanding of the world beyond their privilege, though that never seemed to matter to those who saw only their skin. At the counter, Margaret Thompson, a senior flight attendant, stood with her arms crossed. In her early 50s, she carried herself with an air of authority that often blurred into arrogance. She had worked for StarFlight Airlines for over 25 years and had seen all kinds of passengers, and in her mind, Emma and Sophia didn't belong here. The twins approached, pulling out their boarding passes. "Excuse me, is this the—" Sophia started, but Margaret didn't let her finish. "Economy is the other way," she said, her voice sharp, eyes scanning their casual outfits as if waiting for them to realize their mistake. Emma blinked, her jaw tightening. "We're flying first class?" Margaret's lips pressed into a thin line. She glanced at their tickets, barely looking at them before shaking her head. "These must be mistakes." Sophia frowned, her voice steady but edged with irritation. "They're not." Margaret exhaled loudly, her patience visibly thinning. "Young ladies, I don't know how you got these, but these are not valid first-class tickets." Emma straightened, her tone firm. "What do you mean, not valid?" The attendant held up the tickets, shaking them slightly. "These aren't even scanned into the system. Did someone give them to you?" Sophia scoffed, her stomach tightening. "No, we bought them." Margaret let out a cold chuckle. "Enough of this. I don't know how you got past security, but you need to leave the line. First class is reserved for paying customers." Emma's eyes narrowed, her voice low but cutting. "You're seriously accusing us of sneaking in? Do you even know who we are?" Margaret's smirk widened, her tone dripping with condescension. "Oh, I'm sure you're very important, but rules are rules, and you don't belong here." A few murmurs spread among the nearby passengers. Some glanced over. A man in a crisp navy mall suit adjusted his tie and looked away, pretending not to hear. A middle-aged woman clutched her designer purse a little tighter. Emma's hands curled into fists. "We are paying customers." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Sure you are." Sophia took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "Look, if there's an issue, you can check the system again." "Oh, I don't need to check anything," Margaret snapped, her voice growing louder. "I've been doing this job for 25 years. I know when someone's trying to pull a fast one." Emma and Sophia looked at each other, their faces a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "This is ridiculous," Emma muttered, taking out her phone. "I'm calling our father." Margaret let out a scoff. "Your father? And who exactly is he?" Sophia stepped closer, her voice icy. "You're about to find out." Before Emma could dull, Margaret did something neither of them expected. She tore the tickets in half. Gasps rippled through the passengers nearby. Sophia's mouth fell open. Emma felt her chest tighten, heat rushing to her face. "You can't," Sophia's voice wavered. "Just did," Margaret said, her expression indifferent. "Now step aside." Emma's voice shook with rage. "You just destroyed our property. Do you realize what you've done?" Margaret shrugged, tossing the torn pieces onto the counter. "You shouldn't have tried to scam your way in. Now move or I'll call security." The humiliation settled like a weight on Emma's shoulders. Her whole body burned, not just with anger, but with disbelief. This wasn't just a mistake, this was deliberate. Someone cleared their throat nearby. Excuse me." David Harris, mid-30s, casual blazer, sharp gaze, stepped forward, camera pointed right at them. "I think you just tore up 2 perfectly good first-class tickets," he said, his voice steady but pointed. Margaret's eyes flickered toward him, her mouth tightening. "Sir, this does not concern you." "It does when it looks like you're kicking people off a flight for no reason," he countered, "and I got the whole thing recorded." Margot's composure slipped for a split second, but she recovered quickly. That's none of your business. These girls are trying to board with fake tickets. David's eyes narrowed. Fake? Then why didn't you scan them properly, or are you just making this up as you go? A murmur of interest rippled through the small crowd. Some passengers were watching now, a few holding up their own phones, ready to hit record if needed. Margaret squared her shoulders, her voice lowering. These young ladies do not have valid tickets. David raised an eyebrow. Then why'd you rip them up instead of scanning them? Emma seized the moment, her voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. Exactly. If you were so sure, why destroy the evidence? What are you hiding? Margaret's face flushed, but she held her ground. I don't need to explain myself to you. A flicker of uncertainty passed over Margaret's face, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. Sir, I would appreciate it if you didn't interfere. David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And I would appreciate it if you stopped humiliating people for no reason. Sophia's voice cut through the tension. This isn't just about us. You're treating us like we don't belong because of how we look. Say it. Admit it. Robert's eyes widened, her voice rising. How dare you accuse me of that? I'm just doing my job. Emma's fingers clenched around her phone. The words, "This isn't happening," looped in her head, but it was. A security guard started approaching. 2 men in dark uniforms. One leaned toward Margaret. Everything all right here? Margaret nodded quickly. Yes, these 2 young ladies were attempting to board first class without valid tickets. Emma turned to the guards, her voice sharp with controlled fury. That's a lie. And one of the guards held up a hand. Ma'am, do you have proof? Sophia's voice trembled with anger. We would if she hadn't just destroyed our tickets. David stepped forward, holding up his phone. I've got proof. It's all here. Her tearing up their tickets, accusing them without checking. Want to see it? Silence stretched. One of the guards looked at Margaret. Did you actually tear them up? Margaret's face darkened, but she didn't answer. David let out a chuckle. Yeah, she did. And now she's hoping no one calls her out on it. Emma inhaled sharply, her voice shaking but unwavering. We're not leaving. Sophia's eyes burned. We belong here. Margaret exhaled through her nose, turning toward one of the security guards. Escort them out. The gun hesitated, glancing at David's phone. Ma'am, if there's a video... Margaret snapped. I say escort them out. I'm in charge here. The guard nodded reluctantly. Miss, you'll have to step away from the gate. Emma and Sophia stared in disbelief as the guards took a step toward them. Emma's voice rose, trembling with fury. You're going to regret this, all of you. David's phone was still up, still recording. This, he muttered under his breath, is about to go viral. Emma and Sophia Bennett stood outside the gate, stunned, humiliated, furious. The security guards hadn't dragged them away, but they had firmly escorted them out, leaving them stranded near a row of empty airport chairs far from the first-class boarding area. The flight was taking off, without them. Emma clenched her jaw. She ripped up our tickets and treated us like criminals. Sophia exhaled slowly, trying and failing to steady herself. I swear to God, if she acts like she didn't do anything wrong, she will... Emma snapped. And they'll cover for her. Sophia's hands shook. She pulled out her phone. I'm posting about this right now. Emma grabbed her wrist. Wait, let's call Dad first. He needs to know before this blows up. A buzzing sound interrupted them. Emma looked down at her phone. 12 missed calls from their father. The video was already spreading. Sophia's voice was tight with anger. You should answer. Emma didn't hesitate. She swiped to accept. Dad? William Bennett's voice boomed through the speaker. Where are you? What the hell happened? Emma exhaled sharply. We were kicked off our flight. Sophia leaned in, her voice breaking. They accused us of fraud, Dad. She tore up our tickets in front of everyone. A pause. A deep, heavy pause. When William spoke again, his voice was deadly calm. Explain, now. Sophia took the phone, her voice shaking but firm. One of your flight attendants, Margaret Thompson, accused us of trying to scam our way into first class. She tore up our tickets and humiliated us in front of everyone. William's tone grew colder. Did she know who you were? Emma's voice trembled with anger. We tried to tell her. She didn't care. She just kept saying we didn't belong. Silence again. But this time, Emma knew what it meant. Her father wasn't just angry, he was furious. William Bennett wasn't just any businessman. He was one of the most powerful figures in the airline industry. He owned the very airline that had just humiliated his daughters. His next words were clipped, icy. Stay where you are. I'm coming. Then the line went dead. Sophia exhaled. Emma dropped into one of the airport chairs, hands gripping her knees. This is going to get ugly. Sophia let out a humorless laugh. Good. Let's see how they like being humiliated. As they waited, Sophia scrolled through her phone, her eyes widening. Emma, look at this. She turned the screen toward her sister. David's video was already trending, with thousands of comments calling out StarFlight and Margot. This is bigger than we thought. Emma's jaw tightened. Good, let it burn. Meanwhile, inside the plane, Margaret Thompson stood near the first-class cabin, forcing a polite, controlled smile as she greeted passengers. The incident with the twins was already slipping from her mind. She had done what she thought was right. Those girls hadn't looked like first-class passengers. Their behavior had been too entitled, too bold, and now the flight was boarding smoothly. Everything was back in order. At least that's what she thought, until a passenger refused to sit down. And David Harris, Margaret frowned. Sir, I need you to take your seat. We'll be departing shortly. David looked at her, eyes cold. Do you seriously think this is over? Her stomach tightened. I don't know what you mean. David leaned against the seat in front of him. You just kicked 2 black girls off a first-class flight for absolutely no reason. I recorded the whole thing. Margaret's breath caught in her throat, but she kept her face neutral. Sir, if you have a complaint, you can take it up with StarFlight Airlines. David smirked. Oh, I have. And so have about 1 million other people since I uploaded the video. Margaret's stomach dropped. He turned his phone toward her. The screen displayed a viral post. His video had already racked up over 300,000 views in under an hour. The comments were brutal. This is why flying while black is a nightmare. At TruthSeeker88, StarFlight Airlines, we need answers. Boy Scout StarFlight Airlines. Imagine tearing up 2 perfectly valid tickets just because you're racist. This flight attendant needs to be fired. Margaret's throat went dry. David lowered his phone, shaking his head. Yeah, this isn't going away. A passenger nearby leaned forward, her voice sharp. Is this true? Did you really do that? Margaret's face flushed, but she forced a smile. There was a misunderstanding. I was protecting the integrity of the first-class cabin. David laughed coldly. Protecting it from what? 2 girls who had every right to be there? Margaret's voice rose, defensive. I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive. I know a scam when I see one. David's eyes gleamed. Keep talking. You're just digging your own grave. For the first time, Margaret felt a flicker of fear. LAX Airport, StarFlight Airlines corporate office. The StarFlight Airlines corporate office inside LAX Airport was usually a quiet, well-organized space. Today it was chaos. William Bennett stormed inside, his presence alone commanding the room. He was not the kind of man who lost his temper publicly, but today his anger was palpable. His assistant Robert rushed to his side. Mr. Bennett, I just saw the video. Liam's voice was razor sharp. Where's the regional supervisor? Rayad swallowed. She's in the conference room. William didn't wait for an escort. He strode down the hallways, his polished shoes slamming against the tile floor. As he walked, his phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Dad, the video's everywhere. People are furious. He clenched his jaw, his resolve hardening. Inside the conference room, the regional supervisor, Karen Davis, was already waiting, along with 2 StarFlight executives who had clearly been scrambling to contain the PR disaster. Karen stood as soon as William entered. Mr. Bennett, William threw his phone onto the table. The video of Margaret tearing up the tickets played on loop. His voice was dangerously low. Explain. Karen hesitated. We are investigating the situation. I didn't ask for an investigation, William interrupted. I asked for an explanation. Karen's voice trembled. Sir, we believe it was a misunderstanding. William's eyes blazed. A misunderstanding? My daughters were accused of fraud, had their tickets destroyed, and were escorted out like criminals. You call that a misunderstanding? One of the executives, a nervous-looking man in his 60s, cleared his throat. Sir, we only just saw the video. We don't have all the details yet. William's fist clenched. My daughters were publicly humiliated by my airline. My employee tore up their tickets, accused them of fraud, and had them escorted out like criminals, and I have yet to hear a single valid excuse. Kara's hands fidgeted. Sir, I understand your frustration. No, William cut her off. You don't. William leaned forward, his voice low and menacing. Do you know what it feels like to watch your children be treated like they're less than human? To know it happened on my airline, under your watch? Karen's face paled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Silence. William exhaled sharply, regaining control of his voice. I want access to every complaint ever filed against Margaret Thompson. Karen hesitated. Mr. Bennett, Ugh. A tense pause, then Karen nodded to one of the executives, who hurriedly pulled up files on a tablet. As he scrolled, his face paled. William narrows his eyes. What? The executive swallowed hard. There are multiple complaints against her, racial profiling, unnecessary aggression towards certain passengers, but, he hesitated, none of them were ever escalated. William's blood ran cold. He turned to Karen. You knew. Karen's breath hitched. Sir, we receive hundreds of complaints. William slammed his fist onto the table. And you ignored the ones that mattered. Karen flinched, her voice barely a whisper. We thought we could handle it internally. William's voice was a growl. Handle it? You let a racist keep her job while she humiliated passengers. My daughters included. You call that handling it? Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Finally, William straightened, his voice final, unshakable. Fix this. And nodded quickly. Yes, sir. William's jaw tightened. This wasn't just about Emma and Sophia anymore. This was about every single person StarFlight had failed. And William Bennett was about to make sure they never failed again. William Bennett stood in the heart of the StarFlight Airlines corporate office, surrounded by executives who had suddenly forgotten how to breathe. The truth was out. Margaret Thompson had a long history of discrimination, and the company had covered it up again and again. William's voice was low but lethal. Tell me how this woman still has a job. Karen Davis, the regional supervisor, swallowed hard. Mr. Bennett, William slammed his hand against the table. I'm not interested in excuses. I want names. Who let this slide? Silence. Then one of the executives, Paul Rutherford, head of customer relations, shifted uncomfortably. Sir, the complaints never made it past middle management. William's eyes snapped to him. What do you mean? Paul hesitated. The system's designed to filter minor complaints. If a flight attendant doesn't have multiple severe infractions within a short period, the reports don't escalate. And if they do, the regional supervisors, he cast a glance at Karen, determine if the case moves forward. William turned to Karen. So you knew? Karen's face paled. Sir, you knew, she pressed her lips together. We thought she would change, that retraining would be enough. William let out a slow, dangerous breath. See, you let her keep humiliating people until she got caught on video. Karen flinched. I understand your anger. No, you don't. William's voice cut through her like a blade. You let my daughters be humiliated by someone you should have fired years ago. Karen's face burned with shame. William exhaled sharply. Get Margaret Thompson off that flight, now. Karen jolted up, grabbing her phone. Yes, sir. She rushed out of the room, leaving the executives frozen in place. William Bennett wasn't finished. He turned to Paul. Every complaint against her, I want every single one compiled into a report. Paul nodded quickly. Of course, sir. William's gaze darkened. And I want to know how many other filtered complaints exist in my airline. Paul swallowed. I'll get that information immediately. William Bennett wasn't just going to fire Margaret Thompson. He was about to burn down the entire system that protected her. Meanwhile, on board Flight 529, Margaret Thompson felt the weight of every single pair of eyes on her. First-class passengers whispered, some stole glances at their phones, scrolling through comments that tore her apart. She kept her head high. She had done nothing wrong. Then the intercom buzzed. Miss Thompson, please report to the front of the cabin immediately. Her stomach twisted. She walked stiffly toward the front, where the lead supervisor of the flight crew, Thomas Carter, waited with a cold, unreadable expression. Margaret, he said, voice clipped, step off the plane. Her pulse spiked. Excuse me. You're being removed from duty. Passengers murmured louder. Some filmed her. Margaret forced a laugh. You can't be serious. Thomas stepped closer, his tone deadly even. Get off the plane. She opened her mouth to argue, to defend herself, but then she saw something over Thomas's shoulder. David Harris, still recording, still watching her downfall unfold. Margaret's heart plummeted. She had been untouchable for years, but this time she wasn't getting away with it. With stiff movements, she turned and walked down the aisle, humiliation burning her skin as passengers whispered and stared. For the first time in her career, she was the one being escorted out. And the moment she stepped off the plane, she knew her career was over. LAX Airport, the confrontation. Emma and Sophia sat side by side, still fuming, when a sudden wave of commotion broke through the terminal. A group of executives rushed toward them, Karen Davis at the front. Behind them, 2 security guards were escorting Margaret Thompson through the airport, and walking in the middle of it all, expression carved from stone, was their father, William Bennett. The moment he reached them, Emma stood. "Dad!" William held up a hand. "You're getting on your flight." Sophia frowned. "But—" "Margaret Thompson, gone, fired, effective immediately." Sophia's breath hitched. "Wait, what?" Karen Davis stepped forward, voice trembling. "We deeply apologize for what happened today. The company is taking full responsibility." William turned around like a storm. "No, you're taking responsibility." His eyes were ice. "Because this happened under your supervision." Karen stiffened. "Sir, I—" William's voice was deadly. "Resign or be fired." Herring froze. Passengers and airport staff watched in stunned silence. The entire airport had turned into an audience for StarFlight Airlines' biggest scandal ever. Emma and Sophia looked at each other, barely processing what was happening. Karen swallowed, her hand shaking. I'll resign?" William nodded once, cold and final. "Good." They turned back to his daughters, his expression softened. "You're getting on your flight, first class. No more delays." Sophia exhaled. "And Margaret?" William's jaw tightened. "She won't work for another airline again." Emma bit her lip. "And StarFlight?" William looked around. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of this moment. So he lifted his chin and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "StarFlight Airlines will be under immediate internal review. Every past complaint, every ignored incident, every flaw in the system, we're fixing it." Murmurs of shock rippled through the crowd. He turned to Emma and Sophia. "This isn't just about you. It's about every single person this company has failed." Sophia blinked, surprised. "You're actually going to change things?" William met her gaze. "Yes." For the first time that day, the twins felt something other than anger. They felt justice. And as they finally walked toward the gate, boarding passes in hand, they knew this was just the beginning. Emma and Sophia Bennett sat in the front row of first class, their seats finally secured. But even as the plane taxied down the runway, they could still feel the weight of what had happened. The whispers, the stares, the knowledge that the entire world had just watched them get humiliated, and then watched their father burn down the system that allowed it to happen. Sophia let out a slow breath. "I still don't believe it." Emma glanced at her. "What part?" Sophia shook her head, staring blankly at the seat in front of her. "All of it. Getting kicked off, going viral, Dad firing Margaret and Karen on the spot." She let out a dry chuckle. "I mean, when has he ever handled anything that fast?" Emma smirked. "When it's his daughters." Sophia sighed, stretching her legs. "At least we're actually on the flight now." But even that didn't feel like a victory, because it wasn't just about them anymore. Back at LAX Airport, media frenzy. William Bennett walked out of the StarFlight Airlines corporate office, straight into a wall of reporters. The video of Emma and Sophia's humiliation had already exploded online. Every major news outlet was covering it. The words StarFlight Airlines scandal flashed across screens. Microphones shoved toward him. "Mr. Bennett, are you making changes to StarFlight Airlines policies? Will the company be issuing a formal apology? But what happens to Margaret Thompson now?" And William stopped. He didn't run from the cameras. Instead, he looked straight into them, his voice calm but firm. "StarFlight Airlines failed today." The reporters went silent. William continued, his words deliberate, powerful. "My daughters were publicly humiliated by an employee who should have been fired years ago, and I take full responsibility for that failure." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The CEO of a billion-dollar company was admitting fault, publicly. William's gaze hardened. "But this isn't just about them. This is about every single passenger who has ever been treated unfairly by this airline. This is about every complaint that was ignored, every injustice that was buried. And I promise you that ends today." The cameras flashed wildly. A reporter raised a hand. "How do you plan to fix this?" William didn't hesitate. Effective immediately, StarFlight Airlines is launching a full internal investigation. Every past discrimination complaint will be reviewed. Every unchecked incident will be addressed, and any employee found guilty of racial profiling will be fired. More flashes, more gasps, another reporter called out, "And Margaret Thompson?" William's jaw tightened. "Margaret Thompson will never work for StarFlight Airlines again." Silence. Then the reporters erupted. The story had officially shifted. It was no longer just about what had happened to Emma and Sophia. It was about a system collapsing and being rebuilt in real time. Margaret Thompson, the fallout. Margaret sat alone in a dimly lit hotel room staring at her phone. Her career was over. The news had spread faster than wildfire. StarFlight Airlines had publicly denounced her. William Bennett had personally fired her. Her name was everywhere. She scrolled through the comments under David Harris's viral video. Justice for all good. She got exactly what she deserved. Batalva, imagine being this racist and thinking no one would notice. By Margaret. At Flight Crew Insider, not surprised. I worked with her before. She's been like this. Ogrep's hands shook. She had spent years getting away with this, but not anymore. A text popped up. "Karen Davis, I just resigned. You ruined both of us." Margaret let the phone drop onto the bed. Everything she had built, gone in an instant, and there was no coming back from it. Miami, a new beginning. 6 hours later, Emma and Sophia landed in Miami. As they stepped off the plane, a small crowd of reporters was waiting. And Sophia groaned, "Of course." Emma squared her shoulders, might as well face it. A young reporter with a microphone rushed up. "Emma, Sophia, how do you feel about what happened?" Sophia exhaled. "How do you think we feel?" Emma crossed her arms. "It wasn't just about us. This happens to people all the time. The only difference is that this time the world paid attention." The reporter nodded quickly. "Do you think your father will actually make changes?" Emma exchanged a glance with Sophia. Finally, Sophia shrugged. "Guess we'll see." And with that, they walked past the cameras. Because this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the StarFlight Airlines scandal erupted, and in those 3 weeks, everything had changed. StarFlight Airlines headquarters, a new era. William Bennett sat at the head of the boardroom table, his fingers steepled as he listened to the final report from the newly appointed head of ethics and compliance. The investigation uncovered 85 separate complaints of discrimination within the past 6 years, the woman said, adjusting her glasses. Of those, only 8 were ever properly addressed. William's jaw tightened. Most of the ignored complaints, she continued, were filtered out by regional supervisors, including Karen Davis, who dismissed them as misunderstandings or miscommunications. She hesitated. Many of these cases are eerily similar to what happened to your daughters. William exhaled slowly. He had expected this, but hearing it confirmed still made his stomach turn. Another executive shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Bennett, the company's reputation has taken a severe hit. We've lost high-profile partnerships. Our stock has dropped by 15%. If we continue down this path..." William cut him off. "If we don't fix this, we lose everything." Silence. Then he leaned forward, his voice measured but unwavering. "StarFlight Airlines is implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Every employee, from corporate to cabin crew, will undergo mandatory training. Real training, not just a slideshow and a signature." His gaze darkened. "And if any supervisor ever covers up a case like this again, they'll be fired. No warnings, no second chances." Some of the older board members shifted uncomfortably. William didn't care. This was happening because, for the first time in his career, he wasn't just protecting his company, he was fixing it. Emma and Sophia facing the aftermath. Meanwhile, across the city, Emma and Sophia Bennett sat at a small cafe in downtown Miami nursing iced coffees as they scrolled through their phones. The news was everywhere. StarFlight Airlines overhauls discrimination policies after CEO's daughters are humiliated. Aviation giant promises reforms, but will they stick? By the flight attendant speaks out, "I was made a scapegoat." Sophia snorted at the last one. "A scapegoat? Really?" Emma rolled her eyes. She ruined her own life. She just doesn't want to admit it. Sophia took a sip of her drink, thinking, "Do you believe Dad will actually change things?" Emma hesitated, then sighed. "I think he's trying." Sophia nodded slowly. "Guess that's all we can ask for." A notification popped up on Emma's screen. "David Harris tagged you in a post." She clicked it. It was a photo of her and Sophia at LAX Airport that day, with the caption, "3 weeks later, the world moved on. But did StarFlight Airlines really change? Let's keep watching." Emma smiled. David had been the first to stand up for them, and now he was making sure this wasn't forgotten. Sophia leaned over. You thinking what I'm thinking? Emma smirks. Yeah, let's go live. She opened Instagram, hit the go live button, and within seconds, thousands of viewers flooded in. Emma leaned toward the camera. Hey guys, it's been a few weeks since what happened at LAX and since everyone's been asking. Sophia jumped in. No, we're not just moving on. Emma nodded. We're making sure StarFlight actually follows through on their promises, and if they don't, Sophia raised an eyebrow. We'll be right here watching. The comments exploded. At KJ, yes, keep the pressure on. At Aviator 21, they only changed because of the backlash. Stay on them. At Truthbomb, respect. This is how real change happens. Emma and Sophia smiled at each other because for the first time since that awful day at the airport, they felt in control. This fight wasn't over, but at least now they weren't fighting alone.